Today I want to share with you some things. Because of our time constraints, we only really have the opportunity today to look at North Fulton. I want to look at East Cobb, and I want to look at the west part of Gwinnett. And the reason being is I want to show you the similarities in pricing structure, whether it's a buyer's or seller's or a neutral market, and what's happening with that. I will post all of this stuff on Workplace so you have these stats, and then I can easily show you how to create these for individual submarkets if you want to break it down to the subdivision level with things like that. So when people ask in generality about is it a buyer's market or a seller's market and what's happening with that, we've got to be very careful being so general because we have so many submarkets within the Atlanta metropolitan area. And we have to be really careful of is it can be a buyer's market. In one area, the same area, it could be a seller's market depending on the price point with things like that. So we are looking a little bit in the general terms today with the areas that we're going to cover. But let me know because we can really hone in on what's happening. So who here is hearing rumors or rumblings out there about the market's changing and we're going to be in trouble? Or is anybody hearing any of that? I was just curious.
People asking me about it.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay. What are y'all hearing out there? Anything?
Luxury market's tumbling.
Okay.
It is.
And it's always typically a buyer's market with that anyway, just because of the buyer pool is much smaller at that point. Okay.
Under 750, watch out, it's on fire.
I agree, and in most areas you're right that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off looking at this, and what I did, this is just kind of interesting. We're going to look at it by area really quickly. I look at it being a seller's market if you've got 0 to 4 months of current inventory. It becomes a balanced market between 5 and 7, and if you have 8 months plus of inventory, it's really a buyer's market. So if you're looking at upper price points, and if you break it down by price segments, you will definitely see it's a buyer's market in most areas once you get above 700, 800,000 in a lot of cases, okay? What I want to look at today, because I'm not seeing any indication at all in the area that I'm talking about that we are in for any kind of drastic change over the next quarter, okay? Now, if I could predict that 100% of the time, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd probably be sitting in a ivory tower somewhere dictating the world, right? But we can look at things and look at patterns of things, what's happening out there. The thing to remember is that we're always looking in a rearview mirror when we're looking at that, okay? And who here drives forward while looking in the rearview mirror? I hope nobody, right? Because you're going to get into trouble with that. The same thing can happen with this, so don't get caught up. That's a different story. I did have a story when I was 16. I did drive backwards through a McDonald's drive-thru. I don't recommend that, and they were not real happy about it.
You have to be a professional.
What's that?
You have to be a professional.
You do. And it made it much easier for the passenger who was ordering something to pay for it, so it worked out good.
It was on purpose.
It was on purpose, but it wasn't very smart. So anyway, so looking at this is Area 13, which is where we are located in the office right now. And I went back to January of 2017 for all of this. So we're looking at just under 2.5 years. I just wanted to see if there was any type of disruption in the pattern of things that I was seeing. And so if we look in January of 2017, we started off the first 2 months of the year in somewhat of a balanced market. That's not unusual. Who here typically sees an increase in the number of properties hitting the market at the first of the year? I mean, so that's I don't want to say it's a false positive by any means, but you're going to see, I see that all the time. So that, and then it balances out very quickly with that, okay? And a lot of times it's good agents convincing their sellers to go ahead and get on the market right now before the spring rush. So we'll see that a lot as well too. But the funny thing I noticed is that, Area 13, if you look at, and what I did over here, where I circled in each year was what the highest average was for any time during that year that we're looking. And you'll notice something too, in most cases, which makes sense, it was during a period of when it was a seller's market that we saw that spike increase. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay.
How much is that? 572?
572,106 was the average for July of 2007 in Area 13. That was the closed price average, not the list price average.
This is in Area 13.
Yeah, so this is Area 13 that we're looking at right now. So I just kind of wanted to take you through that because I want you to notice that it took, I don't see any buyer months what's in as far as where it was a buyer's agent looking at this, okay?
This is Roswell, or?
This is Roswell, Area 13 where we are, which is going to be west of 400.
But that's also Milton Alpharetta too.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in North Fulton. That's part of
You
that.
mentioned West Gwinnett. What's
West
west of
Gwinnett.
400 of Gwinnett?
Well, Gwinnett, all of Gwinnett is east of that, but the west part of Gwinnett, like Peachtree Corners, Duluth, Swanee, Buford, Area 61 and Area 62.
Okay, that's not in this area.
That's not in this slide here. This first slide here is strictly Area 13, which is North Fulton, west of 400. Okay, so it does incorporate Milton, a little part of Alpharetta, Roswell. Johns Creek is more Area 14, with that, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking for with that. So everything, if you look at it, very consistent. We had a couple of months that spiked where it was starting to be a shifting market. And so that tells me because of the price point, that is the reason that's happening with that. So we're going to kind of keep a look on that. But the last 2 months, it's a good indication that we truly are having a spring market because the inventory went back down, which means things are selling, okay? And if you look at the spike here in March of this year, it spiked all the way up to 626, but then went back down, with that. So that's Area 13. Any questions about that?
So we're looking at like a 5% differential.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah.
Area 14 now is shifting to the other side of 400. Again, we're seeing very similar things, a little bit lower price points with things like that. But if you look at it, a lot of what I call blue months, right? So where it's a seller's market with that, with the inventory coming in. Again, we saw a couple of months here where increased inventory, they were staying on the market a little bit longer. But then, boom, we got into the spring market, and these are all good signs that we're having a healthy spring market. So we can see that those numbers went back down with that, okay? Area 81, which is East Cobb, and Area 81 primarily would be the part of Marietta and Kennesaw where you have Lassiter High School, Sprayberry High School, and Kell. Again, look at the consistency with that. I have been saying for the last year and a half that is one of the hottest markets in quote-unquote East Cobb right now. I know a lot of people don't consider that East Cobb because we're starting to get a little bit closer to that. However, because of the value there and what's happening, and you're starting to see prices kind of go back up, it's a good value there. So a lot of my buyers that were looking maybe in Pope in the past or anything like that, they found some really good deals in Sprayberry and Kell because of how everything's kind of growing out with that, okay? Area 82, when we look at that, that is where Roswell and Cobb County come together, Pope High School area. Again, everything is blue months going through that inventory. I mean, things are flying off the shelf with that, and we're seeing very steady price points with that, okay? Area 83 gets into where Walton and Wheeler is, and at the beginning of 2017, we saw a little spike in the number of months of inventory. Same thing with September of 2017, and then in January of this year. It's a funny thing about Area 83, because of Wheeler and Walton, they seem to take some a little bit of time before they realize that they're overpriced with things. They typically will wait and see with that. And the school does have a lot of pull, but if you look at scores overall, and what we're starting to see now, even with Wheeler being like one of the top 3 magnet schools in the country, that's pulling up those prices as well. The fact that the Braves moved closer with that, the fact that it's very easy to get into town and everything like that through Area 83, you'll see a increase definitely in the price points with that there. So Area 61, which is now going back over to Gwinnett, and I want to compare Area 61 kind of with the east part of Cobb when we look at whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or a balanced market. And you can see definitely a seller's market through here.
What part of Gwinnett is that?
This is Norcross, Duluth, Suwanee, Buford, Sugar Hill.
Oh, okay. I thought that was an earlier area. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's okay. This area of Gwinnett is typically going to be west of 85. Okay. And I'm just really looking at that because I wanted to see how the pricing structure is very similar, because you've got North Fulton that is in the middle, and you've got East Cobb, and then you've got the west part of Gwinnett that butt up to against it. So you're going to see very similar trends. You may see a difference in the price point a little bit, but as far as like typically your absorption rate are going to be very similar with that. So if something starts happening in one, watch it, because it's usually very quickly that you'll see them follow each other as far as that goes. So to me, everything is a very strong market. Getting into area 60, or area 61 is more than Norcross. Area 62 is once you get into north of like Suwanee, and then you get into Buford and everything like that. That's still going to be on the west side of 85.
What would Johns Creek be considered?
Area 14. That's still North Fulton. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you do have it where it does butt into that, but that's why, because you'll have similar pricing structures with parts of Duluth and parts of John Creek that kind of overlap a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So area 62, same thing again, very strong. As far as that, there was 1 month here where it kind of spiked. Again, January is not unusual to do that. That does not alarm me at all. Okay. And especially because you didn't see a huge drop off in price. You'll see a little bit, but then it picks back up from that. So the reason I want to point this out to you is it's very important to kind of know now, because the news and the media starts reporting things very much at a big macro level, okay? And real estate does not work like that. Local markets are very micro, okay? And we've got to be really good at understanding and digging in to do that if you're going to price stuff well. And understand that the fact that, hey, just because something doesn't fly off the shelf now in a week or 2 weeks doesn't automatically mean it's overpriced. So you've got to look at where the days on the market are coming from, so we can have intelligent conversations with our sellers and actually with our buyers as well too, so we can get them off the fence if they're wondering what's happening with things like that. So does all this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Does everybody see how they could use this and it'd be very powerful with talking with sellers and stuff? Okay. Any questions about anything?
So how'd you pull this data?
If you go into, and I'll run you through this, and that's a good thing for us to close on. If you go into FMLS,
Like on page?
well, yeah, the first page, but then go into search. So under products, actually, if you go into matrix,
You go in a search.
and then go to stats. You see where stats is right here? And so basically what I did is from here I went into customize, and I did two different stats here. What I did is, so the time frame, what I did, I went back and I just customized it. You can put whatever time frame you want here. So in this case I went January 2017 through May of 2019.
Is it in?
The statistic, and you can do a bunch of stuff here. So my first statistic that I did was months of inventory. Okay, so you just click that there. And then if you go to advanced options here, you can do that secondary statistic, which is what I did. And I did close price average there. Okay, and then make sure you check on detached if you're looking at detached. If you do, if you look at the or attached there, and then just put in the area you want. So if you wanted whatever area you want. So in this case, we did area 13.
So.
And then search. And I can spend a little bit more time with you if you need it outside of this. I do want to wrap up because I know we've got
Yeah.
to turn the room with that.
I kind of get the.
Yeah, and then once you hit generate, you're basically just going to generate that report. It's going to give you that. If you want the bar graph with that, you can also here, if you just want the data itself, this is what I pulled for this. I didn't think it really warranted looking at the graph from this. This was much easier to follow with what we were doing today. So, all right. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do with that if you look at it. I mean, there's endless number of reports that are available, and I'm happy to spend some more time with you guys outside of this if we need to. So, all right.